Captain Adam steered through the rough waters off Somalia's coast, his focus locked on the control panel as he scanned the sea ahead. He kept a close eye on the radar and coordinates, spotting a few boats in the distance. At first, he barely noticed them, just assumed they were local Somali fishermen. But as the boats came closer, moving in perfect sync, something in his gut told him something wasn't right. That instinct, built over years at sea, kicked in hard. "All hands on deck," he called out over the ship's intercom, his voice firm and urgent. These weren't fishermen. Pirates were heading straight for them, and fast. What they didn't know was that Captain Adam had a few tricks of his own ready. The morning had started off calm, the sun casting a soft golden light over the ship as it cruised smoothly through the open sea. Captain Adam had gone through his usual checks and even shared a few easy laughs with his crew. Everything felt routine, nothing out of place, until he noticed the two boats on the horizon. At first glance, they looked harmless, the kind of boats you often see around those waters. But the closer they got, the more it became clear. They weren't out there to fish. Adam knew this route was risky. These waters had a reputation. So when he saw the armed men on the incoming boats, a chill ran through him. Without wasting a second, he jumped into action. His fingers moved quickly over the controls, adjusting the ship's speed and course. He called out instructions to the crew, clear and sharp, getting everyone into motion. Thanks to his quick thinking, the ship shifted just in time, swerving away from the two boats that were closing in fast. The pirates pressed on, trying to outmaneuver him, but Adam didn't flinch. He pushed the ship as hard as he could, steering through the waves with steady hands. The smaller boats tried to flank them, darting side to side, but he kept his focus. Using the ship's massive size, he carved through the sea, sending large waves rolling back toward the attackers. Each turn of the ship sent crashing water against them, shaking their balance and slowing them down. Just when it seemed like they might have a moment to breathe, a deep, heavy thud echoed from the ship's side. Adam froze. Something had hit them hard. He hadn't seen the third boat. It had stayed hidden, waiting for the right moment. In seconds, the pirates were on them, ropes thrown, boots hitting the deck. They swarmed up the side of the ship fast, armed and moving with purpose. Adam's stomach dropped. They'd been outplayed. Captain Adam had weapons stashed on board in case things got ugly, but turning the ship into a battleground was the last thing he wanted. He knew that fighting back could easily spiral out of control. Instead, he figured the smartest move was to let the pirates take over for now, let them feel like they'd won. His higher-ups could sort out the mess later, but as the armed men climbed closer to the deck, something clicked in Adam's mind. A bold idea formed and a small, knowing smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. If these pirates thought they had the upper hand, they were in for a serious surprise. No one knew the ins and outs of this ship like Captain Adam. Without wasting a second, Adam grabbed the ship's intercom and spoke calmly but clearly. He ordered every crew member to head to the cafeteria below deck, fast. Then he warned them that pirates were boarding, hoping they had enough time to get to safety. Right after the announcement, he shut down the ship's engines, letting the vessel drift with the waves, exactly as he'd planned. Down below, the crew followed his instructions, slipping into the cafeteria and locking it behind them. Meanwhile, the pirates clambered aboard. There were 5 of them, all holding worn-out AK-47s. They moved in a bit of a mess, but it was obvious they'd done this before. Still, they hadn't faced a ship this big. It threw them off. The size, the silence. They paused, unsure where to even start. Their leader, a sharp-eyed man named Errol, came up with a quick plan. The goal was to grab anything valuable and easy to carry. One of the pirates suggested calling in backup, but Errol quickly shut that down. He didn't trust other pirates, and barely trusted the ones with him. More hands just meant more people to split the loot with, or worse, lose it to. He knew the best chance they had was to keep this operation tight. But to make it work, they needed someone from the crew to guide them. Problem was, the ship was dead quiet. too quiet. The silence wrapped around them like fog, and unease crept in. Something didn't feel right. Up in the control room, Captain Adam watched their movements carefully. When he saw the pirates split up, he felt a wave of relief. It was the opening he needed. Taking on all 5 at once would have been risky. But a pair here and a trio there, much more manageable. Adam quickly radioed his 2 trusted officers, instructing them to lock the cafeteria door and then meet him on the bridge. They arrived quickly, ready and focused. The plan was falling into place. While the officers slipped off to start setting the trap, the 2 pirates out on deck slowed their steps. The stillness of the ship gnawed at them. With every creak of metal and every shadow in their path, the idea of an ambush grew harder to shake. As the 2 pirates moved through the vast, echoing corridors of the ship, their confidence slowly faded. The quiet was unsettling. Every step felt louder than it should have. Up in the control room, Captain Adam and Officer Harris moved quickly, sketching out a strategy. They decided to use the ship's complex layout to their advantage, setting a trap deep in the cargo hold where shadows and crates made the perfect cover. In the dim light, the crew quietly went to work, rigging up cargo nets and placing hidden alarms around a specific crate, forming a non-lethal snare just as planned. Adam watched from a concealed spot as the 2 pirates, Ahmed and Isef, crept toward the trap. Both were tense, clutching their old rifles tightly, drawn in by the sound of something clattering nearby. It was just loud enough to catch their attention, just quiet enough to seem like someone hiding. Suspicion mixed with curiosity and greed. As they reached the crate, they peeked inside. Their eyes lit up. Inside were rows of brand-new smartphones, neatly packed and gleaming. For a moment, their fear vanished. That kind of loot was more than they'd ever hoped for. From their hiding place, Adam and his team watched through a narrow gap between containers. Everything was set. They just needed to wait for the right moment. The pirates were completely distracted now, caught up in the sight of the phones. Their excitement grew. They whispered to each other, voices echoing slightly in the stillness of the hold, unaware that every word was being heard. Captain Adam kept his hand steady on the trap's release. His eyes stayed locked on the 2 men, tracking every move. The pirates didn't notice the door behind them easing shut, or the way the air shifted slightly in the room. At Adam's quiet signal, the trap was sprung. The crate's door slammed shut and locked fast, trapping Ahmed and Isef inside. Shouts of triumph quickly turned into panic as they realized they were stuck. Adam and his crew finally breathed out. One group down, but the job wasn't finished yet. Back in the mess hall, Adam gathered the team to go over the next move. His tone was calm but serious. This wasn't over. Everyone needed to stay alert. Then he returned to the control room and immediately cut off all communications from inside the crate. The last thing they needed was for the others to get tipped off. He turned his focus to the surveillance screens, watching grainy footage of Aral and the remaining pirates. Their movements were slow and careful, but Adam tracked every step. He was determined to stay ahead of them. Pulling his team back together, Adam reminded them, no noise, no mistakes. Every second counted now. Then, reaching for the radio, he called the Coast Guard. His voice was steady and direct as he gave a full report. 2 pirates caught, 3 still on board and armed. The radio hissed with static as he gave all the key details. When he finished, the room fell quiet. Every set of eyes turned to the radio, waiting for a reply. Even though they had reached out for help, Captain Adam knew they couldn't just sit back and wait. The nearest coast was still hours away, and too much could go wrong in that time. Then, finally, the radio crackled to life. The Coast Guard came through, confirming they'd received the alert and were organizing a cautious boarding plan. It was reassuring to hear, but Adam didn't let his guard down. He kept his eyes locked on the monitors, tracking Aral's every move. Elsewhere on the ship, Aral led the rest of his crew through the narrow corridors. The fact that Ahmed and Isef hadn't checked in was starting to gnaw at him. He signaled his men to slow down and stay alert. With each room they cleared, the silence grew heavier. Something didn't sit right. They hadn't run into a single crew member, and the unease was starting to show. The pirates glanced at each other nervously. Errol's instincts told him they were being watched. He moved slower now, eyes darting, heart pounding. Up in the control room, Adam studied Errol's behavior. He could tell the pirate leader was growing uneasy. That was good. It meant the plan was working. In a low voice, he updated his team. Errol was smart, aggressive, and not the type to panic easily. One wrong move and things could spiral fast. They had to keep their focus. Back below, Errol's frustration finally boiled over. He snapped, firing a round into the ceiling. The sharp noise tore through the quiet, echoing off the walls. His crew joined in, blasting shots into the air, hoping to scare out anyone hiding nearby. But all it did was give away their location and show how shaken they really were. Errol's voice rang out through the corridors, loud and threatening. He yelled warnings, growing more aggressive with each word. The rage in his voice made the ship feel tighter, like the walls were closing in. But in the control room, Adam stayed calm. He watched, listened, and issued quiet instructions to his team, guiding them through the tension with a steady hand. Knowing they had to stop this before anyone got hurt, Adam made a bold decision. He would confront Errol himself. It was dangerous, but if it meant protecting the crew and buying time, it was worth the risk. His team was clearly worried, but they didn't question his choice. They kept working to lock down the rest of the ship while Adam got ready. He didn't grab a weapon, just a stun gun, handcuffs, and a clear head. He was choosing strategy over force. Moving through the quiet halls of the ship, Captain Adam kept his pace steady and his focus sharp. He followed Errol's last known path, every step echoing faintly in the silence. As he turned a corner, there they were, Errol and his remaining men. The pirates lifted their weapons in a flash, but Adam didn't flinch. He stood tall, calm, and unwavering. Something in his confidence made them pause. Errol narrowed his eyes, studying him with a mix of caution and interest. Thinking fast, Adam made a move. He offered to lead them to the ship's most valuable cargo. His voice was even, his expression unreadable. Errol hesitated, clearly suspicious, but the temptation was too strong. He gave a small nod. Adam led them down into the cargo area, staying cool as they moved deeper into the maze of containers. Every step brought them closer to the final trap, but he gave nothing away. They finally stopped in front of a crate packed with sparkling jewelry. The pirates' eyes lit up. Without waiting, they started cramming the loot into their bags, greed taking full control. Errol, still cautious, glanced at another crate nearby, one labeled for high-end electronics. As he stepped closer and bent to check it out, Adam saw his moment. He shoved hard, sending Errol stumbling straight into a hidden trap just behind the crate. In that instant, Adam's crew burst out from their hiding spots. The pirates didn't even have time to aim. Everything happened in seconds. The takedown was quick and clean, no shots fired, no one hurt. In minutes, all the remaining pirates were disarmed and restrained. With the threat contained, Adam ordered a full sweep of the ship. Teams checked every hallway and compartment, locking doors and confirming the crew's safety. Adam personally checked in with each team member, his calm presence helping settle frayed nerves. Once he was certain everyone was safe, he returned to the bridge. Far out on the water, the Coast Guard ship finally came into view. The sight of it brought a wave of relief that rippled across the crew. Adam prepared the ship for handover. When the officers boarded, he led them straight to the captured pirates, Errol included, still dazed by how fast things had turned. Before they were taken off the ship, Adam turned to the Coast Guard officers. "These men did wrong," he said, "but many of them were driven by desperation. I hope you'll consider that when deciding what comes next." The officers nodded, clearly moved by his words, and assured him they'd take it into account. As the pirates were escorted off the ship and the debrief began, the Coast Guard commended the crew for their courage, calm, and clever thinking in the face of real danger. With the crisis behind them, the ship set off again. A quiet strength settled over the crew, earned not just through what they'd survived, but how they'd stood together through it all. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true sea tales and gripping adventures. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.